Hello, good afternoon. My name is Emmanuel Zay, the lead decorator of firework painting. On today's episode, I'm going to be talking about humidity and how it affects the painting finishes and construction. You understand? Now, what is humidity, you may ask? You understand? Because most of us, we've seen humidity or we've been around where there is humidity, we don't understand the defect that this thing can cause. You understand? To our painting finishes. Humidity is actually the excess amount of gaseous water in the atmosphere that your eyes cannot see. You understand? You can experience humidity either interior base or an exterior base. Now, here is a practical example of what I'm going to be explaining how humidity surface in our finishes and how it affects our painting finishes. Now, we've made to understand that humidity is the coldness of a particular room. You understand that your eye cannot see, but you can only feel that this particular space is cold. Now, that coldness is the humidity. You understand? Now, the humidity is not only restricted to coldness of a particular space. You understand? You can have a warm air that is locked for a very long period of time. That is also a humidity. You can say your humidity is either high or low. Now, humidity ranges from 0 to 100. Now, this is a practical space, and this is a basement that I'm doing here at the custom headquarters. Now, in this space, there is no proper ventilation in this space. So the question you should ask yourself, how do you therefore regulate humidity? How do you take a cold environment to a warm environment? You do that with the help of what? Regulating your temperature. How do I mean? For you to regulate humidity, bring the coldness of a particular space to a warm space, you need the use of what? Temperature. Your temperature can either come in different ways. One practical example is what? Your vent pipe. This is a vent pipe that is extracting the air, the humidity of this space, the coldness of this space outside and bringing a regulated temperature outside, inside. Do you understand? So that this air, this humidity that is within this space will not be caged. Because when it is caged and not evaporated outside, it becomes toxic. You understand? Now, when that air is toxic, humidity then gets to a particular point. We call it relative humidity. Relative humidity is the actual coldness you are feeling in that room. So when the actual coldness is moving from 100 to 0, because at 100 humidity is low, at 0% humidity is extremely high. That's why when you put on your AC, you reduce it for increase. When you increase the number, you are reducing what? The coldness of that space. That is how humidity work. So when this air is caged, is not evaporated out, it moves from 100 to 0. It begins to increase. It begins to increase. Now, that increase, it will get to a point called dew point. That is the highest point of coldness in a particular room. Now, if your room is extremely cold, now that there's no AC, you will feel it at every point that you feel it. Now, at every point that you are feeling the coldness is what we call relative humidity. Now, we have what we also call absolute humidity. Absolute humidity is the total air you feel in a particular space divided by the dry air. What does that mean? There are some space within your room that you will say that this place is cold. There are some places in that same place that is warm, that is dry. So when you divide it, you will get what? Your absolute what? Humidity. That is how this humidity work. So how then does humidity create defect on our painting finish and in construction? Now, in construction phase, you know when you are doing the plastering and the plastering at that point in time, the humidity is high. What do I mean? When you are doing plastering of a particular surface, that space is usually cold because why? There is enough moisture on that surface. There is water on the plaster, and that water will definitely evaporate into the atmosphere. So when that atmosphere is not regulated by a good temperature, temperature is the same thing as heat. When we're talking about humidity, humidity is equal to what? Coldness. Temperature is equal to what? Heat. That's why I say you use temperature to regulate what? Humidity. Now, if that plaster space is cool, is cold, you are advised to what? One, bring in a good ventilation system. Either you are using a ventilated machine, or you are bringing in a machine, a humidifier that can what? Help reduce the humidity of that particular space. That's why they say when you do a plastering, allow the plastering to go through the curing process. Do you understand? Now, that curing process is the process where the humidity find way to go out so that fresh air can come in. Do you understand? That is how humidity works. Now, what are the defects that this humidity can cause? Now, because of this humidity that is caged for a particular period of time, you start noticing mud growth, you start noticing algae, you start noticing discoloration on your paint, you start noticing corrosion on ions that are within that space. Why? Because the air is now toxic. Same applies for temperature. Temperature that is heat. Now, if you lock a particular space and there is no good air entering that space, when you open that space, automatically evaporation starts taking place. What do I mean? First of all, when you enter into a space that has high temperature, no air coming in, your body begins to evaporate. Thereby, you begin to excrete out sweat from your body. That is the same thing plaster does. When there is heat in a particular plaster surface, it hastens the drying process of plaster. You understand? So that tells you, therefore, that when there is humidity, the body will not undergo evaporation anymore. So when there is humidity, the wall will not evaporate anymore. Because why? At that point, the excess water that is on the wall and the atmosphere, they are caged together. Do you understand? So when there is excess humidity, evaporation is retarded. So for you to bring in evaporation, you need to regulate with what? Temperature. Now, most of us see that when we enter a particular space that is locked for a period of time, a residential space, we notice that black spots are on the POP, are on the walls. We notice mud growth. Those are mud growths. Because why? The air has what? Become toxic. You can no longer breathe with that air. That's why it is cold. You understand? Now, when that humidity reach 0%, which is the highest point, condensation begins to take place. That is the next topic. What is condensation? Condensation is what? The conversion of what? Gaseous water that your eye cannot see into liquid what? State. Now, when this conversion is taking place, the liquid fall on any surface. If it is on your plaster, it falls on your plaster. If it is on your electronics, it falls on your electronics. Now, mind you, that liquid water that is now that has now condensed into the surfaces of that environment is toxic. That's why when you put a bread in a particular space and lock that space, when you come back, it decays. Mud growth has started what? Occurring. Because mud is a living organism. It starts feeding on what? Those bread, and also even on your clothes, on your wardrobe. The clothes that you've not used for a very long time, you notice that there are whitish powder on your clothes. Those are what we call what? Mud growth as a result of what? Condensation. The air has been caged for what? Too long. Too long. Do you understand? Now, the next defect I'm talking about is algae. When there is relatively high humidity, algae with what? With what? Come up. Especially when there was what? A pipe leak or a water lodgement in that particular space. When there is water lodgement in a particular place or a pipe leak on the wall, algae will definitely what surface. What is algae? Those are the greenish bacteria you see on the wall. You also experience fungi. You understand? You start noticing that your electronics are not working fine. That's because this moisture that is uh, resting on these electronics, they are toxic. and it affects the function of this what electronics. These are the sequential understanding of what humidity, so that when you enter a space as a tender and you notice that the walls are wet, it is to tell you that the humidity there is not regulated. First thing to do, bring in your temperature. Second thing to do, bring in a humidifier. A humidifier is a machine that you can use to reduce humidity, which is coldness, like bringing a machine that generates heat. You understand? Bringing in a good ventilation what system. Those are the ways to reduce what humidity. These are the practical ways. So if you understand humidity, you will know the problem that is affecting your paint. When you're going through mud growth as a result of no leakage, one, no water lodgement, two, you will know that it is the humidity. Now, I'm talking about humidity. It doesn't mean that you must have a cold surface before those defects will come in. Yeah. So if you have a poor temperature also, a very low temperature, those defects can still come in. So if you are having a temperature, you understand that temperature is the warm or hotness of a particular space. Now, if your temperature is low, it means humidity will surface. If your temperature is high, excess heat, no air, no good air to breathe, the air becomes toxic. You start having dry nose, dry ear, dry eyes, dry throat. Do you understand? So in that space become what? Stuffy. So it is important that you understand where your problem is coming. So you see how condensation relates with humidity. So when you see such problem, you know that condensation has taken place. Now, it is the effect of the condensation that is causing reaction to your paint. Now, how do you solve issues or defect that arises from humidity or high temperature? Now, first thing first, if it is on your POP, the thing you need to do, you need to disinfect with biocidal wash. Now, how do you disinfect? First of all, you either spray the POP with a spray machine or you roll it with your roller. Allow it to act for like 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, you can now come back, get a clean, a warm water and a detergent and wash the POP gently in the areas where you are having this defect. Now, areas where you are not having this defect, also wash those areas because those areas, these things, the defect is still there, but it has not started surfacing. So to be clean and clear, you have to disinfect the whole POP. The same process for your wall. Now, if you are doing that of your wall, you go through the same process. But for POP, immediately you disinfect. Definitely, you have affected what the abrasion system of that surface. You have used something to alter the surface, so you need to stabilize. So you get a stabilizing solution and stabilize, and you paint direct. Because the effect of humidity is not much, you understand, compared to water lodgement issue. Do you understand? Because you also see this as a result of discoloration. Now you enter a particular space, you see some yellowish or cream or off-white color defect that has bleeded your paint. You go through that process. Now, if it is a silk finish or a satin finish, it's advisable that you have to grind off that space. You understand? That is the most important aspect of humidity that you need to know. Because if you don't understand humidity, you will not know how issues surface. Now, this is a project I'm doing. A practical example. When I did this project, I applied a liquid bitumen on this surface. Now, this liquid bitumen, for me to hasten the drying process, I have to introduce a ventilation system to regulate the humidity level of the space. So I won't experience a cold environment. I will rather experience a warm environment. Now, when the butuplex experience the curing state, I noticed that humidity started surfacing. Humidity started surfacing. Now, when I touch some patches of the bitumen, I noticed water. I noticed some other side, it was dry. That means condensation was taking place. I had to know and understand. So I was having patches of water, liquid water on the surface as a result of what? Condensation. So I knew what to do. I had to what? Increase the ventilation rotation of this thing, of this vent, so that the amount of air that will go out will be more compared to the humidity of this space. Do you understand? So that is the process. You must understand this process. Humidity is a very vital issue when it comes to construction. It will help you understand how your plaster can dry faster. I want to thank you for giving me this privilege to give painting education to the painting industry and also to the public at large. Now that we've understood what humidity is, how it affects our paints, if there's any question that you don't understand, please feel free to hit us up on our YouTube channel or our Instagram page or our WhatsApp number.